If you can, for just a minute, I would like for you to imagine a world where you get on the internet and you're trying to search and you're trying to look up things like wild edibles and maybe the health benefits of wild edibles. And are things edible? Are they okay to eat? And it's things like maybe plantain herb or dandelion weed or wild onion or wild garlic or clover or whatever it might be, right? You're looking up these things, and everything you're finding 5 years from now, 6 months from now, 3 weeks from now, may say these things are a danger to your health, or these things are dangerous for you to consume, or there is no health benefits to these things, even though we know right now that they are chock full of minerals and vitamins that are fantastic for you, and in fact are much safer than most of what you get from the grocery store, especially if you handle it properly. But put yourself in a world 5 years from now when AI systems and algorithms and community guidelines has completely taken over the internet, and you can no longer find these things. This is why I'm asking the question, is it already too late? I don't think it is yet, but that time is coming, and it's coming quickly. If this sounds like an interesting discussion, I encourage you to stick around. Me and Forrest will hang out. We'll talk about his inevitable end and how I think that relates to this topic.
I once was lost, oh, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see.
Let's talk about Forrest's inevitable end. His inevitable end is to end up on our dinner table. And I know that that's a harsh reality for some of y'all, and some of you, it's easier just to go to the grocery store or the butcher shop and you don't see the animal and all of that. I understand that. It doesn't bother me to go through this process. It's something I've been through most of my life, whether it be raising animals, hunting or fishing or whatever, is knowing where your food comes from. And in fact, I enjoy the process a lot more than going to the grocery store to get meat. But that's kind of beside the point. Here's the deal. He has an inevitable end, and there's no way around it. Like, that's what's going to happen to him. Now, Forrest is kind of a special case, if you will. Forrest was born blind, and fences have always been in trouble for him. He hits a fence and he tries to go forward instead of backward. And so somebody that we used to buy our square bales from whenever we had the dairy cow, they had beef cattle, and after this one was born, and he tried to work with him for quite a while, and he called me and he said, listen, I got a deal for you. If you want the headache, I've got a blind one. I just give him to you if you want him. And so I talked to my father-in-law, and he had an idea about building this little pen in the back of this old hay barn, and it's worked out great. It's got a roof over it. However, the sides of the hay barn are off. I think a tornado several years ago came and blowed a bunch of the wind off, or blowed a bunch of the tin off, or heavy winds or something. Anyway, the roof's on it, so he's at least got a roof over him. He can hear the birds and feel the sunshine. But this is kind of his life. And every day my kids come out and they visit with him and they scratch on him, and no doubt it will be maybe hard on them whenever we butcher him until they begin to eat, and then they'll be pretty excited about it. But that's his inevitable purpose. That is his end, and it's for a reason, and that's the harsh reality of it, right? Well, how does that relate to AI systems and community guidelines and the dangers of all of those kinds of things when it's applied to the internet? Well, the inevitable end is so that you can't be self-sufficient anymore. The inevitable end is so that you can't provide for your family on your own accord. So you don't know whether or not, you're in limbo about whether or not plantain herb or dandelion is safe to eat. You're in limbo about whether or not this certain kinds of mushrooms are okay to eat, right? Not just the ones that make you see things. I'm not talking about that, right? I'm talking about things like morels or chanterelles, or pick any oyster mushrooms, or pick any of them, right? If you can, hey buddy, if you can, he likes to lick. You say hi. Say hi to everybody, man. How's it going? Right now, you have the ability. Listen, buddy, I'll give you some loving, but this is crazy. Right now, you have the ability to go and find these types of things on the internet. And you can look it up, and it's at your fingertips. But see, I know that YouTube, their updated community guidelines for medical misinformation is going to include whether or not things are actually good for you, right? Which sounds great, except for, I know, and I'm not going to have the articles here, you can look it up, I've got them in other videos. I know that, like, the WHO, the World Health Organization, is currently looking into natural remedies and whether or not they're okay, including things that grow naturally all around you. Well, if the WHO decides that it's no longer safe to consume plantain yourself, plantain herb that is, not the banana looking thing, well, then you can't make YouTube videos about it. And then how's that going to be applied across social media? I recently tried to make a video that Facebook would not let me share at all, right? They said that the content goes against community guidelines. And the content was about the UN. And it wasn't anything, violent or, anything along those lines. It was just talking about the UN. And so, as we see those levels of control continue to be clamped down upon the internet and upon everything that applies to the internet, whether it be social media or whatever, right? Google has said, listen, we are going to change the way that we allow things to work on the search engine, right? Where only the certified okay stuff is going to be at the top, and you're not even going to be able to find the other stuff. Well, okay, well, now we got to try to find different search engines. But how many people is actually going to do that? That's my fear. You understand? That is my worry. I know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, a few things that are okay to consume that grow wildly and naturally around me. And I know they have medicinal purposes. We've used them for medicinal purposes, and they work great. I'll give you a great one that we have used. You use a combination of dandelion, a combination with plantain and clover and honey and vinegar, and it is a great tea to make for a cold. But what if YouTube decides, you know what, this is misinformation and you can't share that anymore on YouTube? How are you going to find the information? Well, my suggestion would be to find the information now and start getting a hard copy of it somehow, some way. Print stuff off, write it out, whatever you need to do, but start making you a hard copy right now while you have the ability to do it. That goes along with all of your Bible apps that you have on your phone. Listen close to what I'm saying. I am fine with Bible apps. I use them. I use them all the time. I use the audio Bible quite a bit. I like to sit and listen, whether I'm working along on something or whatever. I like to play the audio Bible in the background. But how easy would it be for those to be manipulated in such a way where only the agenda that is pushed by the UN or the World Health Organization or whoever is able to, you're only allowed to put the stuff that works with that agenda on the audio Bible or on the Bible app, right? And so some of the things that I'm thinking of now is, like, the Bible tells us that we are to put God above all things. God is the supreme leader of our life, over the government and over our bosses and over everybody, right? Well, what if they clipped those little parts out, right? What if they clipped the parts out where the Hebrew boys stood against Nebuchadnezzar, the governmental ruler of the day, and said, we won't bow to your image? What if they take that out because it might be considered violent? What if they take it out the fact that the Bible clearly states that living a homosexual lifestyle is sinful and wrong? What if they take that out? You understand what I'm saying? What if they take out that Jesus is the only way that a person can be saved, is through Jesus? What if they take all of that out, right? And so don't depend on your Bible apps and don't depend on that stuff forever. Get you a hard copy. Get you a hard copy. That way you know. If you don't know how to butcher a beef, start learning now, right? I'll tell you this. I don't really, know how necessarily. I've helped. I've done it a little bit here and there. I've butchered a lot of deer and hogs and those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, right, it's just quick. Hey, I want my coat. Don't you lick me. You knock it off. And so, understanding that, like, you just got to get the meat off the bone. But how many people are confident enough to do that without looking on social media and YouTube or Rumble or all those things? We have got some videos that I want to do, that we are trying to set up, that I'm trying to get everything right, and it's taken forever, and it's not working real smooth for me with everything else we've had going on. We've got some pretty major changes coming that we'll probably talk about in our next video. But, like, I want to do a whole video about butchering forest, and most of that I won't be able to put on YouTube. I'll have to put it on Rumble exclusively, right? Which is why I think we ought to support some of these alternative video platforms and social media sites. And by support, I mean, let's just get on them also. At least get on them also, right? If you're a content creator and you're being kicked off YouTube, many YouTube content creators right now are complaining that if they are not going along with the narrative, they're either being shadow banned they're being completely taken off, right? They're getting their community strikes. I got one not too long ago for talking about how the WHO and the UN and all of that seem to be paving the way for this idea of a one world governmental system and the mark of the beast. YouTube said I went against medical guidelines. I didn't even talk about medical stuff, right? I didn't talk about whether or not it was good for you. I talked about how it seems like those things. Now, they didn't give me a strike for it, which is the first time they've ever given me a community, they took a video down and didn't give me a community strike. However, this is not going to be a very effective raincoat at the end of this. I got a feeling. However, as YouTube continues to do this, right? And it's not just content creators complaining. Think about it. It's not just their pocketbook that YouTube is hitting. It's also the information that you can find. The information you can find to help yourself out whenever you need to be more independent. Whenever we need to be less dependent on governmental systems. Hey, that's not food. That's not food, buddy. That's not food. So, the question is it too late? Not yet. Maybe. However, we're quickly gaining on it. That is the inevitable end. So that you cannot be self-sufficient. Just like Forrest's inevitable end, other than playing, is to end up on our dinner plate. I appreciate you guys watching. We'll catch you on the next video.